Hello. This is my contribution to the It Gets Better project. Thanks, Dan, for coming up with this really great idea. My name is Alex Roan. I live in Maine, and I am a 29-year-old transgender person. In my case, what that means is that when I was born, I had a female body, and people expected me to be a normal little girl and grow up and be a woman. However, it didn't turn out that way, as you might have guessed. On the inside, as soon as I knew that there was a difference between boys and girls, I knew that I felt like a boy. And my gender identity has always been male. The reason why I wanted to make this video is because I just wanted to share my own experience with any LGBTQ youth out there who might be considering killing themselves, or who just might be really depressed and think that their life sucks and will continue to suck forever. So when I was little, I was a tomboy, and that was okay because a lot of little girls like to do boy things and play sports and play with trucks and like run around and get muddy. But when I got to junior high school, that kind of stopped being okay. All of a sudden, the girls were like going off by themselves, and the boys were going off by themselves, and I felt like I didn't belong to either group. I didn't understand at all why my friends were like going boy crazy and wanted to like follow around their crushes like between classes and would like giggle and write them notes, and they were all concerned about like fashion and all this stuff that I just totally didn't relate to. And I know not all girls do that, but the group I was involved with did, and so that really made me feel out of place, and like something was wrong with me. And meanwhile, I thought that I was a girl, so of course I didn't fit in with the boys. I didn't even try that. So all of a sudden I went from being like this happy kid who was active and played sports and everything to being a more and more depressed kid who just felt like I didn't fit in anywhere, that I was like an unlikable person, because if I was likable, you know, I'd fit in, I thought. And just that my life didn't have much worth or value. I didn't know about transgender issues at all. I didn't know any transgender people. I didn't even think that I knew any gay or lesbian people. Although looking back, I realized I actually did. I just didn't know it. So I didn't even consider that I might be transgender. I just felt like something is terribly wrong with me, but I don't know what, and so I must be a bad person. One thing that made a big difference in the direction of my life was going to college. I remember the first time I really learned about trans issues was when we had a speaker come to our school who was transgender, just to talk about his life and what transgender means. And I remember sitting in the audience and listening. I think it was a mandatory diversity presentation we all had to go to, so I was like, okay, you know, what's this going to be about? But I remember sitting there and listening and just thinking for the first time, like, wow, like I totally relate to this person's story. It just kind of blew me away because I had never felt that way before. At the same time, though, I didn't think that being transgender had anything to do with me, just because it seemed like such a big deal. You know, I grew up in a Catholic family. My, faith community didn't have a very positive attitude about LGBTQ folks, to put it mildly. My image of transgender people was sort of like people that I thought of like on like afternoon talk shows, like who would like yell at each other and run around and like hit each other with their high heels and stuff. And like that's what I thought of when I thought of transgender. And I thought that all transgender people live in San Francisco or Provincetown, Massachusetts. But, it can't possibly be someone like me. But obviously I was wrong about that. What happened is that I started learning more about transgender issues after this presentation at my school. I thought it was just, an academic interest. It had nothing to do with me personally, but I just wanted to learn more. So I thought. And I spent a ton of time on the internet reading people's journals about their transitions and about their lives, and reading books in the library. Our school actually had a very good LGBTQ section, which was great, and just learning more and more. And the more I learned about actual transgender people, the more I started to realize that there really wasn't any big difference or something that made, these people weird and different from me, that in reality, the blogs I was reading, people were talking about, trouble with their parents and their kids, and the annoyances of their jobs and going to school and just doing all the regular things that everyone does. These were people that were talking about being in great relationships, some were, some weren't. And my whole image of transgender people as something really freakish that would mean that my life would be terrible and I would never find a partner and I would never have a good life, that image just started to shrink as I realized that being transgender is, just another normal human variation. There's lots of differences people have in the world, and, this is just one of them. And so the more I started to learn about this stuff, the more I started thinking, if these people that I'm reading about, if they could transition, why can't I? And at that point, I couldn't even imagine a life for myself as a woman. Growing up, I sort of always had this weird idea that at the age of 20, I would just die, because I couldn't picture myself as an adult doing what I thought adult women did, whatever that might mean. And it's not because of what I liked or my interests or anything. It's just about how I was on the inside, how I felt about myself was certainly not female, and I just couldn't imagine a life for myself. And so I got to the point where I thought, I either need to take steps to transition and get this ball rolling, or I am going to kill myself, because I just can't do this anymore. And that was a really rough time. Luckily, I'm sitting here today because I did make the decision that no matter what it took, I'm going to start being the person that I am on the inside. And that no matter what the consequences are, this is something I need to do for myself. And I'm going to find a way to get it done. I had no idea what my family would think. I have a great family. They're very accepting of me. But this seemed like such a huge deal that I just didn't know what they would do. I didn't know if I would find myself without a family. Looking back, I realized, of course, my family would never abandon me or anything, but this just seemed like such a big, big deal that I didn't know what they would do. And I think being at that point of potentially losing everything was kind of very freeing for me in a way, where I knew that, it's possible that I might have nothing by being myself, but I'm going to do that anyway, and I'll see what happens. I'm not going to get into all the details of what my transition meant, because for every transgender person, transitioning means different things. So I'll just say, I did what I needed to do to be who I was, and now my life is just, I can't even compare it to what it used to be. It's kind of like in the Wizard of Oz movie, how when it's all black and white, and then the tornado happens and Dorothy's gets picked up in her house and ends up in Oz, and then she opens the door and walks out, and all of a sudden everything is just in color, and it's so bright and amazing. And that is really how I felt after after I realized it was okay to be myself, it was okay to live as a man and be who I've always been. It really was like my whole world had gone from this little narrow black and white, like dreary alley to like being the whole big bright colorful world, where I felt like I had opportunities and possibilities open to me that I never would have imagined or even pursued living as a female person. And so in my case, things turned out really well. I graduated from college. I got a job working with teenagers who had mental health or behavioral issues. I eventually went on to get my master's degree in counseling. Right now I'm working towards finishing up a PhD. And I have a happy life. I mean, things aren't perfect. I don't think anyone's life is perfect. I still have to worry about paying the bills and, you know, getting along with annoying people and being in a traffic jam. Just everyday stuff. But I know that if things are bad, I can do things to make them better. I don't feel that same hopelessness and despair that I used to feel every single day as a teenager. And so I guess my message to any queer youth out there, or even a straight kid who might be considering suicide, is that there are always other options. There are people out there who care about you. They just don't know you yet, or you don't know them. And if you're dead, you're never going to meet the people who care about you. If you think that there's no one. You probably do know people already who do care. You just need to reach out to them. And I know, it's not simple. And when I was in like the deepest part of depression, I didn't believe it when people told me like, oh, you know, things get better, you just need to wait. I wouldn't believe that in a million years. But in a way it's true. And it's not by just waiting. I mean, you do need to take responsibility for your feelings and for your thoughts, and just believe in yourself, and keep trying, and, you know, realize that all these negative things that we say to ourselves are, like, just so much wasted energy. Like, I mean, there's so many jerks in the world, like, there's no point in, like, good people spending time hating themselves, because then the jerks win, and the bullies win. And that sucks. I mean, the good people are supposed to win, right? So, stay alive. And I think it's really easy, especially in high school when your peer group is so important. You know, if you're hearing messages from your family and your religion and your friends that, like, you're not okay if you're gay, or if you're a lesbian, or if you're transgender, or if you're just different in some way, that you start to believe these messages yourself. But you really need to just stop and think, where do these thoughts come from? You know, are they from me, or am I just absorbing, like, all these others, like, this crap from other people and turning it into my own story? And you can really write a different story of your life, and you can make it into whatever you want. And it takes a lot of work, but you can do it. And if you're dead, you'll never have that chance. And I guess, like, the other thing is just to try to believe that you are not the problem. The problem is all those people out there that are making you think that you're the problem. But that's changing. I think, you know, we are living in a civil rights movement here. Hopefully within our lifetimes we will see a more just and accepting society. But all of us are going to have to work to make it that way. You know, and if you kill yourself, then you're just one less person that we need to make this happen and to make a better world for everyone. So really, stick around. We need you. It gets better.